Welcome to the Free Cities podcast. My name is Timothy Allen, and this is the official podcast of the Free Cities Foundation. Hello, and welcome to episode number 77 of the Free Cities podcast. Did you know 77 is the sum of the first 8 prime numbers? So it's a special number, especially if you're a Talking Heads fan like me too. Look that one up. Anyway, I've got a special guest for you today on this special episode, and this was one of my favorites from our recent trip to Dubai. Olivier Roland is a French author, entrepreneur, digital nomad, and well-followed influencer. He's got over 800,000 followers on social media. And his latest book, which is not out yet, we discuss it in the podcast, focuses on how the internet is disrupting nation states and also how to navigate these opportunistic times. Something that came up in the conversation that I found absolutely fascinating, and this was research for Olivier's book. He's been testing out the sovereign individual thesis, as in the book The Sovereign Individual. If you don't know what it is, look it up. But he's been analysing the data related to many of the predictions that the book made when it first came out. And what he discovered is absolutely brilliantly fascinating, and especially for me, because I've been a keen observer of the sovereign individual for a number of years now. We also discussed topics including China, Próspera in Honduras, Dubai, charter cities, digital nomadism, of course, network states, and Olivier explains to me what an infopreneur is. Great to get another new word in this week. Infopreneur. Anyway, quick public service announcement before I go. At about the 1 hour 10 minute mark in this conversation, a microphone blew up and I had to restart the recording. This time I didn't try to splice them together because it wouldn't have made sense. So prepare yourself for quite a jolt in the conversation. Anyway, don't forget the Free Cities Telegram channel is most definitely the place to be to meet everyone in this space and to keep up to date on everything that's new. Or, of course, if you're not the sociable meeting people type, well, I've still got your back, because here at the Free Cities podcast, we also have all the up-to-date info and dialogue from the cutting edge of the wedge, but you don't have to engage with anyone. Really, all you have to do, as you know, is just sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Olivier Roland. Out of interest, what is your connection to knowing about special economic zones in China?
I'm studying the subject because I'm writing a book about how nation states are being disrupted by the internet and what are the possible alternate model of governance. So obviously it's a very interesting topic for me. I know it's really helped China to do the transition from a pure communist system to this hybrid communist/capitalist system that they have. I mean, they still pretend they are communists, but they are mostly capitalists now. And it's because they did some experimentation in these free zones, and they saw it was working. And it was actually making everyone more wealthy, which is actually the goal of communism in the first place. So when they saw that these free zones, these experiments were doing well, they were like, hey, maybe we can actually extend this experiment to the whole country. And that's why that's what made China so on this path of being more and more wealthy every year.
I mean, personally speaking, do you think that's one of the more important aspects of a special economic zone, the ability to try out something new in a small scale before you roll it out into the country in general?
I think it's a very important feature. When you look at history, for example, what made communism so bad is not so much the system or the ideas, because when it was like created, we didn't know if it would work or not. Maybe it was a genius stroke from Karl Marx to divide these. But the problem of communism is it was deployed on a massive scale before it was tested. That's why we had 100 million deaths in the 20th century because of communism. If we would have tried communisms on small scales in special zones or like small jurisdictions, I don't think it would have happened, because we will have seen, okay, it doesn't work, actually, not like this, right? Look at China. They deployed it on a mass scale, it killed millions of people, and then they had to go back to another system. But instead of deploying on mass scale, try first on a small scale and see if it works or not. So I think it can really, this experimental approach is basically bringing the scientific methodology to like political system of governance, which is very, very interesting. We can definitely envision a world where we can use the SEZs or some type of SEZs as experiments to see, to try new ways of collaborating.
Do you think Dubai used it in that sense?
I mean, they do and they don't. I think they could go further than what they do. The DFIC for sure is a very interesting experiment. I don't think there was a SEZ before that allowed the law of another country to apply. I'm not sure. I think they are the first, which is very innovative. But now there are other models that go further, like free cities and especially Próspera in Honduras, that goes the extra step.
Describe, you visited Próspera. Describe Próspera. What was your experience of visiting? And I mean, even physically, you know.
Yeah. So I visited it like for 2 weeks in February 2024. And it started more or less in 2019, something like that. I mean, officially it was 2017, but they really started to build stuff at the end of the 2010s. And so first, the island of Roatan is accessible from the US, not so much from the rest of the world, so it can be kind of a hurdle to go there. But when I was there, I was actually impressed by what they accomplished in so few years. It's very impressive, especially, I mean, there was 2 to 3 years of COVID right when they started, which made everything more complicated. And I was impressed. But at the same time, it's still very small. Like you can feel it's very, very, very early. I told the guys, like, I felt like in a combination of being like one of the first pioneers moving from Europe and to the US, and also kind of being in the Manhattan Project. You know, it's like early pioneers going to this remote place in the world, okay, with modern comfort, but not so as comfortable as in Dubai or in New York, and doing this wild experiment, and we don't know really yet if it's gonna work or not. But you can feel the excitation, you can feel you are maybe part of something very big in history, and that it can become very big. You know, you feel the possibility of these experiments turning out to be like something profoundly changing for humanity.
Describe the experiment then that Honduras, that Próspera is conducting in your own words.
Sure. So, well, the idea came first from an economist called Paul Romer, who got the Nobel Prize of Economy in 2018 for all his work, not only for this idea. And he came up with this idea saying, hey, there are quite a few countries in the world that don't do so well. And one of the reasons is they usually get bad regulations, bad laws. He did a TED talk showing, for example, that in an African country, the students had to go in the streets under a public street light to study because it was dark and they didn't have electricity at home. And he said, why? Because there is a monopoly in this state for electricity and it's too expensive for most people. And when the government tried to liberate these, to make it more private, some people complained because they had an interest into things concerning like that. So he was like, hey, what if these countries that honestly have not many things to lose, maybe nothing to lose, what if they do a partnership with a country that have maybe better established laws and regulations? And he gave the example of Madagascar doing a partnership with Canada and basically saying, hey, there is 10 square kilometers of jungle. It's for you, either permanently or for a lease of 90 years. Why not, And the laws of Canada will apply. Do anything you want. We just ask you that all people in Madagascar will have access to this. It's not like you will have to cross a border. It will still be part of Madagascar, but with Canadian rules. And the idea is that it will benefit everyone. Canadian entrepreneurs and investors will be able to build something from scratch and make money, and it will benefit the host country because it will create wealth for the population. Madagascarian will be able to work there, to make better money, to bring also good practices in their country. And when he did two TED Talks about that, and after the first TED Talk, the Honduran government saw this and was like, hey, that's amazing. One of the arguments of Paul Romer was like, in many countries that have problems to develop, well, one of their biggest problems is like a good part of the population is trying to escape. They are immigrating to other countries, often illegally. And why, if you do this kind of partnership, they can emigrate in the country. They don't need to leave the country. If they want to leave the country, it's because they have bad conditions and they want better conditions. Why not give them better conditions where they are? So it's, again, a win-win situation. And Honduras has this problem for years because they have, like many Central American countries and Latin American countries have this problem of people escaping and especially going to the US as illegal immigrants or legal immigrants. And when the Honduran government saw that, they were like, hey, it's amazing because it could maybe solve this problem of people going out. If they could stay in Honduras, it would be way better. So they contacted Paul Romer and they tried to do something. In the end, it didn't work. For many reasons, I'm not going to do a deep dive into these. But then Titus Gebel had the idea of taking the Paul Romer idea and say, hey, it's an amazing strategy, but why do you need a government? You don't need a government. You don't need to do a partnership with Canada or with the UK. You just can do a partnership with a private company, but with the same system. So the idea is to create a partnership that will be beneficial for the host country and for the people who want to create these kind of new jurisdictions. And in Honduras, what happened is they did something. The partnership is you can have your own laws in Próspera as long as it's not against the constitution of Honduras. So for example, nobody can open a shop to sell cocaine, for example. It's not possible. And also you need to respect our criminal laws. So everything that is illegal in the penal system, you cannot do. But everything else, the laws of Honduras don't apply, and you can create your own rules. So it's amazing because it opens a wide range of possibilities of experimentations. And the ideas of Titus in his book of Free Private Cities is, I really love his vision. His vision is to have, at some point, ideally hundreds of free cities all around the world, all trying to implement their own system and competing in a friendly manner, but competing to see which system is working the best. and which system can bring the most of value for residents and also the host country. And this is very important because I see sometimes people thinking it's like a how do you say in English, parasitic relationship. It cannot be. If you want the vision to succeed, you need to add value for the host country. If you don't add value, maybe it's gonna work for 1 or 2 times and then nobody will want to work with you anymore. So it's very important that you are bringing value to the country. And the vision is amazing. It's like, instead of like the current system incentive people to either win elections in democratic system or do revolutions, sometimes bloody revolutions, coup and these kind of things. Instead of that, you can just do your little experiment with only volunteers, so you don't impose your vision on anyone, and see if it works or not. See if you can find a government who is willing to host you. See if you can find people who can work with you, want to do accomplish this vision with you, and see if it works really in reality. Imagine if Karl Marx would have had this model. It would have been amazing. He could have tried communisms on a small scale and see it would not work, you know. And then he would have probably changed his theory, and we would have had way less death in the 20th century because of this. So in Próspera, it's mostly the experiment is mostly driven by a libertarian vision. And I mean, I have a lot of respect for libertarian system and strategy and vision, but it's like communism. It has never been tried before. We don't know if it will work or not. But at least in Próspera, it's going to be tried on a small scale, and we'll see if what ideas are good, what ideas are bad, what needs to be improved, and it's great. And a few things that are very interesting about Próspera is you have a real social contract, because democracies are supposed to be based on a real, on a social contract, meaning like a contract between basically the citizen and the government, which is like the relationship between rights and privileges on all sides. And it's supposed to be a very important part of the legitimacy of democracies. The only problem of this social contract is, where is your signature? You never signed it. So it's not really a contract. It was, you just happen to be born in a place, and then you have to follow the contract. And the government can change the contract at will, so it's not really a contract. I mean, theoretically, it's because the people, the nation as a whole, vote for people who will change the contract on their behalf. So, but still, it's not a contract. And it means also like 50.1% of the population can impose their will on the 49.9, which is maybe not ideal. So in Próspera, you have a real social contract. When you arrive, you need to sign a contract that is like 1,200 pages, something like this. It's in both English and Spanish. So it's like, it's not as big in one language. And then the government of Próspera cannot change one paragraph without you agreeing to it, which is amazing. And it's the kind of the things that we don't know if it will work or not. Maybe we'll discover that it's too static, and it's not going to be allow Próspera to adapt fast to changing circumstances. Maybe we'll discover it's amazing because people will be really reassured by the stability of the law, and it will empower them to do bold things. We don't know, but that's the beauty of it. It's going to be tried, and we'll see if it will work or not. Other things is like, you don't need to follow just one set of laws. When you create a business there, you can choose from a short list of advanced countries, like which regulation you want to follow. So you can say, hey, for this business, I'm going to follow the regulations and laws of Norway or Canada or Switzerland. And you will choose what you prefer for any reason you want. You can also choose to follow the laws of Honduras if you want, or just not follow any law and basically follow the common law jurisprudence. But it means if you do that, it's probably going to be harder for you to find an insurance company willing to insure you. So again, very interesting. We'll see if it works. What happens, and also what about the interaction? What happens when like a company following the laws of France do something bad to a company following the law of Norway. We don't know, or Switzerland or the US. What are the interaction? We don't know, but we will see if it will work or not. And also, there is no official currency. You can use any currency you want, including cryptos, which I think is very interesting to see if I think there is a good chance that a free market of currencies is going to be a good thing for people. And yes, many other things are interesting in this experiment. Yeah.
Can you describe what you actually saw physically at Próspera? In particular, did you look into even which businesses were there and things like that?
Yeah. So, as I said, I'm impressed at what they did in such a few years, but also it's still very tiny. I mean, they bought recently a golf course that is quite big, but I learned at the end that actually, most of the houses and buildings there are not on Próspera territory. When you go to Próspera, you have to cross like a border. It's not really a border, but like with guards. But then you step out and back and out and in and out and in all the time from Próspera to Honduras, and you don't even know it because it's still very fragmented. Actually, there are only 2 people really living in Próspera right now, physically on their territory. So it's a bit confusing, and when you arrive, you don't realize this. They have 2 locations. The first one that they bought in 2018 or something, and the new golf course. It's not directly connected. It's close, but not directly connected. And the golf course is like a mosaic of Honduras, Próspera, Honduras, Próspera. I mean, they do have a bit of buildings that are amazing. The beach is amazing. The location is great. It's a tropical island. The weather is perfect. It's very cool. The buildings on the golf course are amazing. They are also building a residence that should be finished anytime soon that I visited called the Duna Residence on the first location. Yeah.
I always thought you were talking about Pristine Bay.
Yeah.
As the other side. I always assumed, and I thought I was told, that Pristine Bay is included within the jurisdiction of Próspera.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, but
because there is a lot of property there. People are living there.
Yeah, but many properties there are not in Pristine Bay. That's the thing. It's not the whole Pristine Bay thing. And for example, there is the beach center that is part of Próspera and is kind of the headquarters. And there is like a place like maybe 5 minutes of walk from on the if you have the sea on the back, it's on the left. And the restaurant there are not part of Próspera. They are Honduran companies, right? So I mean, you don't know these. They accept bitcoins and stuff, and you feel they are part of Próspera, but they're not really, right? They could change the status and change to be a Próspera company, but it's kind of a gray zone right now, especially because the government is not so enthusiastic about
the Duna residence, though, is in Próspera.
The Duna residence is in Próspera.
Within the Duna residence, there is a large number of residential units, right?
Yeah, but they are not finished yet.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So nobody lived there yet.
But yeah, it's imminent. I mean, we know people that have bought property.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you think about relocating there? Is that, or did you just go there to discover what it was like?
Yeah, no, I wanted to visit Próspera for a while. I happened to be in Costa Rica, so I was like close. And I have a friend, Niklas, who is organizing Vitalia there, who said, you should come, it's amazing. So he made me come actually. Because I mean, I'm also very interested in longevity and this kind of thing. So it was a good bonus for me that Vitalia was happening at the same time. And I interviewed quite a few people, including the mayor, because I want to speak about Próspera in my book. That's how I knew. That's the mayor who told me about this mosaic of territories, but most people don't know this actually.
So what was your conclusion then? would you utilize their? I mean, you live in Dubai, right? So you've chosen to come to a place like Dubai. You're very mobile. You can go and live where you want. What was your feeling with regards to Próspera in that sense?
I think so. That's what I was saying. It's like I'm very excited about the project. I'm like, okay, now I became a e-resident since I saw this. I want to support the project. I mean, I'm already an investor in Tipolis, but I want to help even more. But at the same time, it feels very early. And the thing is, right now, so only 2 people will live on the territory, and maybe they have a population living like thinking they live in Próspera of maybe 200, 300 people. So it's like a village. But it's like also very interesting because it's very special people going there. So it's amazing to meet interesting people, especially people interested in these kind of things. But at the same time, it is so small that you miss the network effect of a big city like Dubai. I mean, it's a chicken and egg problem, right? It's always the same thing. So for me, personally, I feel it's a bit too early for me to move there. But I'm definitely like, I will check regularly what is going on. I will probably visit regularly too, and try to help as much as possible. But it's hard to beat Dubai right now, obviously. So, yeah, I need big cities personally.
Tell me about Dubai then, and whether or not, do you think indirectly you're benefiting from Dubai's SEZs, let's say?
Of course, yeah. I mean, the way for most people like me, entrepreneurs, to emigrate to Dubai is you create a company in one of the free zones in the UAE, and then you employ yourself and you get the visa. That's what I did. And I have many colleagues in my industry living there here, and they did the same thing, right? So we benefited from the free zones because you have so many, you can choose which one you want. For example, when I moved here in 2018, and I had a friend already living there, and I asked him, okay, what free zone do you recommend? And he told me, okay, the free zone I use is this one in Dubai. So I contacted them, and they asked for like a 25 pages of business plan to explain my business. And I was like, guys, I'm not asking for a loan, sorry. I already have a successful business. I don't need to explain it to you. So I found another free zone, and they just needed like 2 lines explaining what is my business. So I use this free zone, So it's good you have this competition of free zones in the UAE that allow to tailor to every need. I hate paperwork, so I went with this free zone.
Why do you think that one of the free zones needed 25 pages of info? It didn't seem like a very competitive advantage.
Yeah, I think it's because some free zones, every free zone is specialized in something, right? This free zone is probably specialized in we follow everything by the book. So, if you are in the free zone, you have a good reputation and, you have a good standing. I don't care about that. My customers will buy from me if I have a company in the US or here or anywhere. They don't care, right? But for some people, it's important. And some people just don't know. They just contact one free zone and they do whatever the free zone asks, right?
Who are your customers?
So my customers are mostly entrepreneurs and people who want to create their company, French-speaking. So living all around the world, but mostly in the French-speaking countries like France, Switzerland, Belgium, Canada.
Okay, so describe your life here then in Dubai, and compare and contrast with the same setup where you were living in France, for example.
Yeah, sure. There are many advantages about Dubai. I did actually 2 videos of almost 1 hour on my YouTube channel about this because, it's amazing. I think Dubai is probably the place in the world about which people have the most cliche. It's crazy. And I understand because I had the same cliche before I came here. I actually came here because I was forced to. My girlfriend of the time, she had her best friend having a wedding here. And she said, you need to come, it's super important for me. And I was like, but why Dubai? There is nothing there, It was in 2017. And when I came, I was surprised to like the city. Actually, I was like, wow, it's actually impressive. And many people have this kind of impression. I could go on for like a long time about all the advantages of Dubai compared to France and many Western countries. First, obviously, it's very business friendly. The regulations are kind of light here. Of course, they have regulations, right? It's not regulation free, but it's way lighter than in many other countries. Obviously, it's very tax friendly. Until this year, it was completely tax free. I mean, no corporate tax, no income tax, no capital gain tax. Now they have a 9% corporate tax, which is fine. I mean, it's one of the lowest in the world, so it's not going to change many things. The government is actually efficient, which is amazing. I mean, it's like you're like, wow, the government can actually be efficient. It's crazy. Nothing is perfect. I'm not saying the government is perfect, but it's like, I think it's very close to the ideal of what a government should be. You can do almost everything online. Everything happens on schedule. When you need to visit the administration, usually it's fast and efficient. You can even buy to be in VIP lines if you want, which is great. The ruler is. I love to say that is a CEO of Dubai Inc. And you really see that they see their residents as customers. And this, I think, is a very important way of being relevant in this new world. In the book I'm writing, I think my conclusion will be basically nation states will have two big paths to explore. More and more controlling and surveying the population and trying to prevent them to escape, or treating more and more their residents like customers instead of taxpayers. And which is a very, very important change of paradigm for many Western countries and many countries in the world. In Dubai, they get it. And you can see even in their communication, they always speak about customer experience. And the ruler of Dubai, for example, is known for going unannounced to visit an administration very early in the morning. And if he sees that some people are not working when they should, he fires them on the spot. He goes to the airport and he measures the time when someone gets out of the plane, how long it's going to take for him to basically leave the airport. And if it's too long, he's not happy. So see, the administration is always trying to streamline everything for the residents. And when you look at the evolution of the laws, it's mostly going in one direction, which is to please the residents. And I would say especially the Western residents, but the residents. So this is amazing to be treated as a customer instead of a taxpayer. It's like completely mind-blowing. And I think Dubai understand very well that they are fighting in a new world where people are more and more mobile, and they need to attract like talented people with a good package of services that are not too costly. Basically, people want to have good services for the money they pay, right? Before, governments had a monopoly on this, and it's less and less true because people are more and more mobile. So you need to have a good price-quality ratio, and Dubai is amazing for this.
It's interesting to hear it like that. I mean, what you're describing is really the model of a free private city. Right. Customers of the city operator. So, I mean, talk to me about how you imagine the concept of free private cities would actually manifest in real life. How does it go down, do you think? How does it actually manifest?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, right now it's hard the start is hard because it's so new that you need to convince people. First, you need to make them understand the concept, then you need to convince them. Then you need to do it fast because if you do a partnership with a democratic country, maybe the government in 2 or 3 years is gonna change, right? and then you will need to start all over because usually the opposition doesn't want to continue the project of the previous government. But I think as soon as we'll have a few projects going on, and probably they will, some of them will work very well and bring prosperity to their host country, then it's gonna open the Pandora box. And then we'll see more and more projects getting off the ground, more and more governments willing to try this model. I mean, it's like SEZs. First, it was a new concept and you need to evangelize people. Then, politicians knew all about it and they were like, okay, we need also to put that, to implement that in our country. So we are really, really early in the curve and hopefully we'll reach the next stage as soon as possible.
Can you tell me, according to you then, what makes a private autonomous city better than Dubai?
Yeah, I mean, Dubai is put the bar really high, I have to say. And they are conscious of this. The ruler says he doesn't want to be just the best in the Middle East. He wants Dubai to be the best jurisdiction in the world. And for him, the arch enemy to beat, in a friendly competition is Singapore. So they want to be better than Singapore. And I mean, it's amazing what they accomplished so far. It's like really, really impressive. Already Dubai is like the 4th most visited city in the world, I mean, what the fuck? Sorry, it's like, what the hell? It's so crazy. So, yeah, it's going to be hard to beat Dubai. I think probably a free city can improve on the Dubai model by being more flexible, willing to try new stuff faster, bolder stuff. I mean, Próspera is already way more ambitious in what it wants to experiment than Dubai. Also, Dubai, obviously, the government has to compose with the local population. They cannot do everything. When you look at the laws, some of them, for example, until recently, it was forbidden officially to have sex outside of marriage. But the law was not enforced, but it was there. Probably because the government doesn't want to upset the conservative part of its population, so it has to do some reforms slowly, right? A free city it will have to compose with the host countries, so of course, but probably will have more freedom to experiment this kind of new laws, regulations.
Do you think the residential component is important? I mean, which one should come first, the business element or the residential element?
So you mean the quality of life?
No, the success of the zone. I mean, like originally zones had no residential component. In Dubai now there is, but it's not exactly the same as an autonomous zone. It's slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, in Dubai it's separated. Like my company is in free zone, but I never been to the free zone. I live because when you have a company in the UAE, you can live in the UAE wherever you want. It's like in the US, more or less, I mean, maybe they can do DFIC plus, just going one step further. But what would it be?
Well, yeah, but maybe exactly. I don't actually know. I think, and this is what we've been discussing and what part of this documentary is about trying to find out is what is the next innovation of SEZs? Not what is the next innovation in an SEZ, but actually the innovation of SEZs. And so what would your answer to that be?
I think free city is big time. I mean, for me, it's like the continuation. But maybe from some places like Dubai, they need an intermediate step. Because I mean, DFIC is already a SEZ plus, right? It's like the jurisdiction and laws of another country applying just on this zone. So maybe we can improve on that and do something hybrid between DFIC and Próspera.
But you said it earlier, though. Living here, the government really works. Okay.
Yeah.
You said it. So I'm not quite sure what Dubai would benefit from.
Yeah.
The independent, because they like I say, in a way, their model of the whole of Dubai is kind of like a free city in a way.
Yeah, that's true.
So what would they benefit from?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they're also willing to experiment and see what is working and not. So maybe they will find something that can even improve better the model. You can always improve, right? So, but yeah, you're right. The government is efficient. The quality of services you get for the money is incredible. It's like incredible. And the whole quality of life here is amazing. For someone like me, meaning like a digital nomad, like a web entrepreneur, is the closest thing to perfection I found so far. I mean, nothing is perfect, but it's like very close, very close.
What would you improve then in Dubai?
It's okay. It's a good question. I will improve the banks. The banks are horrible. I would deregulate a little bit the banks so fintech companies can operate in an easier way, and I would allow people to use cryptos in their businesses too. But yeah, the service in the banks is like bad. It's like
that's interesting because I've heard that the UAE is crypto friendly. Would that be wrong? A wrong assumption?
No, I mean they have a. I mean I'm not a specialist of these. I use cryptos only personally. So, but yeah, they have free zones and regulations tight for crypto companies. But if a restaurant wants to accept Bitcoin, it can't.
Can't.
No.
Not allowed.
No.
Not just can't be bothered. Actually, can't.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. That would be a phenomenal evolution if Bitcoin became some kind of legal tender. That would really work. I mean, yeah.
They should do like El Salvador and make Bitcoin a legal tender. But the thing, of course, the problem of Dubai is like they cannot do that. They have to do this at the federal level. And I'm not sure the UAE and Abu Dhabi will want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, what would the benefit to the government be? What's the incentive to start allowing Bitcoin transactions?
I mean, already the dirham is tied to the USD. So it's not really a sovereign currency. And El Salvador was almost in the same situation because it's a dollarized economy. So why not have another currency? Because already your currencies, you cannot print it as much as you want. And also, I think it's going to be a great marketing thing, to be the first country in the Middle East to make Bitcoin a legal tender. It will be all over the news, positively and negatively, obviously. But it's also going to attract many Bitcoiners, and I think they are becoming more and more a force to reckon with,
I should imagine that making Bitcoin legal tender here would ruffle too many feathers in the international community.
Probably.
Because in a way, El Salvador were ready to stick two fingers up at everyone. They almost had nothing to lose in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas Dubai, like the financial zone, for example, is deeply embedded with the world financial community. And I would imagine that would be...
It's possible. But at the same time, they have more bargaining power than many small countries like El Salvador. They are an important power in the Middle East. They are very influential. They have money. They have oil with Abu Dhabi. And they are buying military equipment everywhere. And I'm not saying that they have the same influence, like power and influence as like Saudi, for example, but they have a little bit more weight than El Salvador, and they could try to, but maybe it's too hard for them. Yeah.
Have you been to El Salvador?
Just one day as a step between Costa Rica and Próspera. But
after the law was passed?
Sorry?
After the Bitcoin law was passed, or?
No, it was just like this year. In February 2024, so just after, like 1 week after the re-election of Bukele. And it was very interesting. I stayed only one day, but I saw a few interesting things.
Which were?
To share?
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what is very interesting about El Salvador, when you arrive at the airport, there is like the photo of Bukele and his wife, and like a reconstitution of his presidential seat and office. And it's crazy. People are like lining to take selfies in front of it. You see this guy is a rock star in his country. It's crazy. I never saw any politician that popular. It's like really impressive. And I was there only 24 hours, but I made it my quest to find a business or some businesses that would accept Bitcoin, right? And so I hired a guy to do a tour of the center of the city, of the capital. And everywhere I went, I asked, do you accept Bitcoin? Do you accept Bitcoin? Do you accept Bitcoin? Like bar, restaurants, and everything. And all the time, people were saying, sorry, no. So they were like, you could see they were a bit sorry about it. I mean, what is great already that they know Bitcoin, you don't need to explain to them what it is. But it's not really, I didn't see a lot of usage. But my guide said, hey, you can pay me in Bitcoin if you want. And he had a bar too. So we went to his bar and I bought a few drinks and his tour with Bitcoin. I took a video of it actually. And it took like 2 seconds with the Lightning Network. So it's possible to find some people. But the guide said basically that everyone installed the Shivo wallet when it was made available because it came with $30 of free Bitcoin in it. But then Bitcoin crashed and people stopped using it. So now that Bitcoin is starting to go up again, probably the people needs to get a little bit more incentive to use it. But when I looked there is an app called BTC Map, I think that shows the businesses that accept Bitcoin. I never saw so many businesses accepting it, but because I stayed so few hours, I couldn't go to visit them.
Yeah, my experience in El Salvador, been a couple of times, and the best part of the adoption story for me was people using wallets like Strike, for example, which allowed people to pay in Bitcoin, but and them to receive USDT.
Yeah, my guy actually he had set up his wallet to convert automatically in USD. And I said, why do you do that? He said, well, I need to make a living. Yeah, so.
Well, of course. I think, and a lot of Bitcoiners for years have scoffed at that notion, but I lived there for a couple of months and realized it's an imperative part of the journey because actually I wouldn't want to receive Bitcoin in its volatile stage if I was running a stall on the beach, but I would happily take USDT, which you can transfer easily, and you can turn it in. You can even turn it into dollar bills if you want from the cash machine, and that makes totally more sense to me. And I think it's a very important part of the journey for adoption. I really do.
Yeah, I'm listening to a Peter Cormack podcast, and he did a tour, and he said people want dollars more than Bitcoins right now because it's too volatile. But also saw an obstacle for crypto's adoption in El Salvador that I think many people don't know outside of it. Is like, so when my guy said, you can pay me in Bitcoin, I said, okay, let me pay you. And he said, we were in the streets. And he said, okay, let's go back to the center place because they have Wi-Fi there. And I said, you don't have internet on your phone? He said, no. I said, why? He said, it's $1 a day. It's too expensive because the minimums or the average salary is $200 per month there. So if you need to pay $30 a month for internet, it's completely crazy. Nobody do that. So we had to move to a place where there was Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi didn't work. And I was like, sorry, can you pay me with dollars? I was like, no, let's go back to your bar, which was like 5 minutes of walk. You have Wi-Fi there? I said, yes, and I will pay you in Bitcoin. But see, it's a big obstacle. If people don't have internet all the time, you cannot use cryptos. And we don't think about it. But so Bookly needs to do something about that. Because without that, people will not adopt cryptos.
I can't remember now what I did, but I'm sure I got a SIM card. I don't remember it being that much. I had a SIM card. Okay. I had a local SIM card, and because my problem was, which is something I'd never thought of before until I lived in a country that accepted Bitcoin as legal tender, was that I was often going out of signal. So often you would want to pay in Bitcoin, and you realise I've got no signal here.
Yeah.
And that was like a light bulb moment for me.
Yeah.
Because I'd never, and it's so stupid to think that you wouldn't acknowledge something like that. But until I actually was spending Bitcoin on a daily basis, it never occurred to me.
You need internet.
Yeah.
So when every phone will have a Starlink connection in bed, maybe the problem will be solved, but it can be a big obstacle in some countries.
Or of course, the infrastructure necessary. Bukele appears to be going full speed ahead. Roads, infrastructure, you name it. I would imagine mobile phone infrastructure would be quite high on his list. Did you happen to find anything out about Bitcoin City when you were there?
In El Salvador?
Yes.
Bitcoin Beach?
No, Bitcoin City, the plan for the...
I did know. I stayed one day, so I wish I had more time. When I was like, if I like Próspera, I will stay. If I like it-ish, I will come back to El Salvador, but I really liked Próspera, so I stayed there, and I didn't have time to explore El Salvador.
You said you're writing a book at the moment. Can you? What exactly is the subject of it?
So it's about the disruption of nation state by the internet and how to thrive in this new world. So I'm talking about a lot of the topics we talked today. Like now, because people are more and more mobile, and it's not only wealthy people, it's also the middle class. Because if you have an internet business or you work completely remotely, well, you have like dozens of jurisdictions fighting to attract you with the best package of low taxes, great quality of life, and good government services. And Dubai understand that. It's one of the places that understand that and really try to attract you, but also many others. When you look at digital nomad visas, for example, the first one to introduce that was Estonia in 2020. And 3 years later, you have more than 50 countries having a digital nomad visa, which is like 1/4 of all the countries in the world in 3 years. So the race is starting, the competition is intensifying, and soon, and already it is right now, the only country that takes you for granted and will try to compel you, to force you to stay is your country, of your home country. Everyone else is fighting to attract you, and your country takes you for granted. And thing is very disruptive, and that's one of the many topics I talk about in the book.
When we were talking earlier off camera, Peter mentioned the similarity between the sovereign individual thesis and what you're interested in. And you said that one of the reasons you're writing the book is because you wanted to check the data on whether the sovereign individual thesis was manifesting. Would you care to share your findings so far? I think that's fascinating. Yeah, because I read the sovereign individual in 2021, and I left my home country, France, in 2015. So I live in London and then here. And when I read it, I was like, wow, that's exactly what I'm doing and what many people around me are doing too. And it really made my mind explode that some guys like predicted all of these like 20 years before, I was like, wow. So it inspired me to do a few things. First, I was like, how can they be so right about predicting the future? What did they do? I tried to reverse engineer what they did. And also, something I didn't like about this book was there was no data. The guys were doing a bunch of predictions. You could see that they were mostly right, because when you read 25 years later, you see they were mostly right, but there was no data. So I was like, maybe my experience is aligned with the vision of the guys, but maybe worldwide it's not true. So I was like, somebody needs to do a dive into the data and see if it is right or not. For example, they are predicting that a nation state will have a harder and harder time to raise taxes. It's easy to prove or disprove. You can just look at the data and the trends and see if it's right or wrong, but they didn't do it. So I did it. And I'm not the only one. Also, scientists and many researchers are researching this, but they are usually not sharing that public. It's not very well known, outside of academic circles. So, for example, it's amazing. When you look at the average corporate tax rate, and I'm not speaking about the theoretical tax rate, but like the real medium tax rate, it went from
around 46%, the weighted average in 1980, to 23 right now. So it's massive decrease, and you can see the curve is like this, it's decreasing like every period of 3 years is decreasing, Same thing if you look at the top marginal rate for income tax. Many countries in 1980 had a marginal income tax of 75% for the top rate, 75 or 80. Or in the UK, it was 90%. At the end of the 70s, which is crazy, in the US too. But now they cannot do it anymore. So you can see that the data aligns mostly with the vision. Although there is like a contradiction to this, because when you look at the percentage of taxes compared to the GDP, it actually increased since the 60s, even though the rates were going down. So when I saw that, I was like, why? I didn't understand the paradox. And I had to really do a deep dive into very like esoteric research. I contacted a few researchers to understand. And basically, it's a combination of factors. It's a fact that actually capital and corporate taxes are going down, but labor taxes are going up. So it means the mobile people are escaping, the corporate, the companies are escaping, but the middle class doesn't understand what is going on and is immobile. And they are what I call one country guys, mono country guys, meaning, a mono country guy is someone who is born in one country, is raised in this country, he mostly speaks the language of this country, he studied in this country, work in this country, invest in this country, have children in this country, retire in this country, and die in this country. It's a mono country guy. And when you look around you, like 95% of the people are like this, and there is nothing to be ashamed, but you can see people like this. It's mostly the middle class right now, and they don't move, so governments are taxing them more and more, and they don't realize it. But remote work makes them able to escape now. They didn't realize it yet because it's so early. It's really COVID that made remote work explode. So it's so soon. People didn't do the connection yet. When people think about remote work now, they're like, hey, I will be able to work from the countryside, amazing. Or, I will be able to go to this region of my country that I like. But they don't realize that they can also go to other countries that will give them better packages. So this is very disruptive. And and when we realize they are taxed more and more and they get less services, probably they will want to escape too. So this is the first factor. And the other one is like companies are becoming more, even though they are less taxed at the rate, they are becoming more and more profitable on average because of the digital economy. I compare specifically in my book Blockbuster with Netflix, because Blockbuster was actually the first competitor of Netflix. Netflix was the competitor of Blockbuster. Blockbuster was like a company that was renting DVDs and VHS in the US. And when you look at the profitability of Blockbuster at its peak year, which was 2004, and Netflix in 2022, and you correct for inflation, you can see, I don't remember exactly, but Netflix has 10 times the profitability per employee than Blockbuster, because Blockbuster had thousands of physical locations everywhere. They had to manage the inventory. They had almost 90,000 employees, and Netflix have a better range because they are worldwide and they have 12,000 employees, and they don't need to have physical locations and inventory. So even if they are taxed less because they have more income, like net income, the taxes are better,
Yeah, the what did you call them? The people that stay in one country, the
mono country.
The mono country people are essentially a captive audience. But what I'm wondering is
but they are growing wings.
Well, are they or are they not? This is the thing, because I'm one of those guys. And because of circumstance, I'm a victim of circumstance. I have an embedded life in the UK. My children are there. They love it. Dubai's not the place for me because more than anything, the environment is not the kind of environment I like. But my wife doesn't want to move either. So I am that guy, and there's nothing much I can do about it. Well, as you were speaking, I was trying to imagine the future where 2-3 generations' time, it's second nature for people to think that they can move. From a very young age, they'll be expecting that. Now, but what might happen? What might happen?
Need to be a large percentage of the population. When you look at the digital nomads right now, they are in the upper level of income. And in many Western countries, more or less 10% of the highest earners, the 10% of the population who make the most money, pay between 60 to 70% of the taxes. So if only a small part of these people leave, it's going to be a catastrophe for the economy of the traditional countries.
I mean, but what I want to say about the captive audience, like me, is there will always be that captive audience, and I think it will be the people that have families. It's very much harder to be a digital nomad once you start having children. It's obviously it's easy to do, but in my experience, children appreciate stability. And moving between countries is not applicable to every child. Some children love it and some don't. But I think on the whole, children do prefer to sort of be in one place. And
so I can say a few things about this.
What's that?
I can say a few things about it because I wrote a whole passage, a whole section of my book on this. So first, you need to understand that being a digital nomad doesn't mean you need to move all the time. It means you are free to move where you want. And if you want to move to a better country and stay there 10 years, nothing prevents you to do that. So you don't need to move all the time. Because usually, I heard this objection often, actually, from parents. And usually it's because they think they have to move all the time, but you don't need to move all the time. If you move to Dubai, you can stay 20 years if you want, right? Or you can stay 10 years and then move to another country.
But what if the policy changes? That's what I mean.
Yeah, no, but then, okay. But it's not going to change. I mean, of course, you never know. But what if the policy changes in your home country? What do you do?
I know, but the point I'm making is the market of governance will know this about people. It will already be priced in, if you see what I mean. So, for example, they'll know that there will be a majority of people. Take Portugal. Not too long ago, Portugal said, right, no tax on cryptocurrency transactions. And I know a lot of people that went there. And within a few years, they changed the law completely. Now, is that audience captive already, or do they have to move on? There are plenty of times, I think, where people are attracted to a country and then repelled relatively quickly. The question is, will they go or not? I mean, your experience in Dubai might be different because Dubai has obviously got some level of longevity. And it could be down to the governance model here. They have long-term thinking governance models because they're run by kings, they're run by families, essentially. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's part of the market of jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions will have the reputation to be stable and others will not have this reputation, and it's going to be priced in. So it's part of this healthy competition of jurisdictions trying to attract you. And some people will not be aware of this feature, and some people will be more sophisticated. It's like in any industry, you know. But second, I have many friends who have children, and they don't mind moving. You know, I think it's two things. It's mostly a limiting belief. Honestly, I'm not saying it's. Of course, it's not as easy when you have children. That's true, but it's mostly a limiting belief, and it's also a generational thing. Like, I think younger people will have these in mind more easily, and they also will expect this from their children and also share this with their children more easily. And also, I think it's an amazing opportunity for the children because we are entering very fast into a world that is smaller and smaller, that is more global than ever. And it's such a gift to give to your children an exposure to different cultures and languages. Like I have a friend, for example, Michael, he lives in Lisbon. He's French, he's living in Lisbon. he has 2 kids, and he hired a British nanny. And he said to the nanny, okay, you need to only speak English with my kids. And now his kids are like 6 years old, and they are trilingual. They speak French, Portuguese, and English. It's one of the best gifts you can give to your children, like by far. I don't think anything compared to that, And also they are exposed to the French culture, the Portuguese culture, and a little bit the British culture. And I think the future belongs to people who will have this kind of multi-countries mindset instead of the mono-country mindset. And one of the big reasons is like they will be more able to take advantage of this market of jurisdictions. And it's such an amazing advantage that I think it's gonna be the generation that will own so many things and be more wealthy than the general population, because it's so important to not be the subject of the monopoly of the one government, So yeah, but most people will not think about it, but many will also in us, But sufficient, like a number high enough of people who can't will think like this.
I think in my case, we thought about it, and we went to El Salvador looking during the pandemic to test the water. Could we live here? We tried Spain, we tried El Salvador, we tried America afterwards. And the truth and the reality in my case was I was more adventurous than my wife.
The spouse is very important.
Right. The children were, didn't care either way, actually. But we have settled back in the UK. I know that's the right decision. The difference would come if there was governmental overreach back home at a certain point that forced me to go, look, we got to get out of it. And that hasn't actually happened yet for me personally. Sure, I don't want to pay tax. I look at Dubai and I think how lovely it would be to have all that extra money each year to spend on my business or to spend on my family. But it's not enough to tempt me away from a farm in Herefordshire where I live. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. And everyone will have his own incentive and constraints. But you see, you're touching also on a very interesting subject, because there will be a new criteria for finding a spouse. There is already. Are you willing to move out with me to other countries or not? It was not so much. It was not really a criteria before. So that it's also a generational thing, right? But more and more, it's gonna be, hey, I don't want to be tied to one territory. Are you willing to explore the world with me? And we don't need to move every 3 months. And don't get me wrong, maybe we can move every 5 years, or we move if we don't like the place anymore. But I think it's gonna be more and more a criteria.
Interestingly, though, I've traveled, constantly almost for 25 years, and my wife has also traveled a fair bit. But when it came to it, when children began appearing, her instinct was to go to be near her mother, for example, which is a very strong instinct, I think, and certainly in women. I think, and those kind of things. I don't know. Like I say, I'm fascinated to see the future, because I do wonder how the idea of mobility will manifest in the future. For example, digital nomads are always the pioneers of these places, as you said. If you look at Próspera, almost certainly the majority of people buying residences there are probably digital nomads. But unfortunately, they're also the ones that are most likely to move on as well,
True.
which is a real predicament when you think about it.
Yeah.
How do you attract people to your free city or to your autonomous zone without expecting them to want to stay? Because without them staying, you end up with holiday homes, you end up with, partly residential places that are empty at certain times of the year, which is the death wish for places, in my experience. You want a place like Dubai where people come, and I think I heard this a number of times, even on this trip. I came to Dubai to check it out. 5 years later, I'm still here. It seems to be that it
that's
really
what's happened to me.
Right.
So
it works. So what are they doing right?
But wait, I'm based in Dubai, but I have been traveling the world for 6 months a year since 2010, and I didn't change this habit when I arrived in Dubai. It's my base. I spend most time here than in any other country right now. I mean, since I arrived, but I still travel a lot. And so there's so many things we can talk about this. First, so you say my wife now has this instinct. So first, I have many friends with a wife and they are following them. Second, I agree that even if people have the ability to move, most people will want to stay in their country. But what I'm saying is like the minority will move will be significant enough that it's gonna disrupt the system anyway. And also it is gonna create like this movement, and it's going to be more and more obvious for a certain percentage of the population to be able to be mobile. And third, it's just a continuation of a trend that started a long time ago, because like 500 years ago, probably your wife would have said, I don't want to leave the village. That's the village I was born in, and that's it, you know. But now probably she's okay to move to another city in the country. But why? Because just the technology and the mindset expanded. And it's the same thing, just continuing on international things. And 500 years ago, if you moved to one village to, in the Wales to London, it was a big cultural shock. Already the people were different, they didn't talk exactly the same. And now it's more homogeneous in the UK, so it's not also as much a big deal.
I suppose as soon as we have intergalactic travel,
right,
moving around the world will seem like nothing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's influenced by technology, and the mindset is influenced by technology, but the mindset also influences the technology. So yeah, it's just a continuation of a general trend. And I wanted to say something else, but I forgot.
Well, it was probably we were talking about why this model will transpire.
And also, how do you make the digital nomads stay? Do you want them to stay or not? So a few things. First, I think it's kind of a curse and a blessing at the same time to try to attract digital nomads. It's a curse because it's hard to make them stay, and probably the first big problem, they all leave, you know. But at the same time, it's a really great incentive to offer the best package possible. So it's good to make governments motivated to try new things. And also, another way of looking at it is like the network state. Like Próspera right now want to expand the model and even the brand of Próspera to other countries. The idea already is that if you are a resident of Próspera, one day, we don't know when, we don't know if, but that's a vision. One day, you will be able to go to Próspera Honduras, to Próspera Senegal, to Próspera Japan, to Próspera Philippines, and you will be, because you will be a resident, you will not have to, you know. So it could be an answer for the digital nomads. Also.
Is that an official policy of theirs? I didn't know.
No, but people were talking about it when I was there.
Right, because we've talked to people here about the future of SEZs, and a number of them have said SEZs will be digital SEZs. You know, they'll have a physical manifestation, but really they'll be about cloud-based SEZs, if you see what I mean, which is the same concept.
I mean, and it's Balaji. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Balaji.
Balaji, I call him.
Who wrote the network state, and there are many similarities between the approach of free cities and the network state. The big difference is like free cities start with the land, and the network start with the cloud, with the community first. I think both approach has its merit and is great. Let's make them compete and see what's going on, you know. Why Próspera could expand. I mean, it's not official policy, but many people having a high position there, we are talking about that. Probably they are not in the position to do it right now, but you know, it could work. And I mean, even if, let's say they create Próspera El Salvador, still, it's too early. Even if you are a resident of Próspera, you will still need, if you want to live in El Salvador, to go through the El Salvadorian system. It's too early for this. But we can see maybe in a few decades that they do partnership. And because they have this brand and reputation, they can say, yeah, we vouch for the people. So we want to have this agreement that people who are resident of Próspera, they will not need to go through your system, or maybe they will be streamlined, you know. We can envision that.
Any other elements in your book that show that the sovereign individual thesis is actually playing out in real life?
I mean, mostly, I think it does. I saw a few things that, like the fact that the taxes as a percentage of GDP is increasing. That is contradictory, but when you look into the details, actually it goes with the vision, with the predictions. I mean, something very interesting that is too early to tell. It's like, I mean, no, they predicted that nation state will try to counter things by creating cartels. And that's what is going on with the OECD trying to impose a minimal global tax. So they did predict this. They predicted they will fail at it mostly. So this is too early to tell. From what I can see, I think probably they will fail because it's such a mess. This whole system is like ridiculous. It took years to organize. They wanted to have a 21% minimum tax, and then they had to settle for 15%. But I mean, they are so
right. Well, I'll mention what happened. We were having such an animated conversation, and then a microphone blew, and now it's giving everyone electric shock. So we've switched over to audio only. But can you remember where we were at? What were we?
So we are talking about the network states.
Okay, here's my observation of network states, because we had a fair amount of interaction with people from that side of the movement, let's say. Recently, we went to Montenegro, and it was interesting for me because I agree. They're starting, their strategy is start online, manifest in real life. It's almost like the free cities end, the free private cities end are more like, okay, let's get all the investment, let's create the city, and then we attract the people to come. And they're both interesting strategies. I'm not as enamored by the network state idea as maybe you, I don't know, because I find that the kind of personality type that is attracted to the network state idea is a little bit more transient anyway, and a little bit more like the tech people are just innovating, but not necessarily participating. Do you understand what I'm saying there?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's still very early, so it's hard to say. But I mean, I think it makes sense to what Balaji proposed. Like, first, you bring a community around a certain topic, then you make them. I mean, he's right. It's not so hard to build a community of hundreds of thousands of people online. I mean, on my YouTube channel, I have almost 300,000 people. Is it a community? You can argue about that. Maybe not. But still, it's possible to have a community with many, many members easily online because you have so much less friction. And then you make a portion of them commit. And Balaji proposed that you make them commit by putting crypto in an escrow account or something, and then you try to negotiate with governments for the land. Actually, in my book, I propose an intermediate solution. I didn't see Balaji speaking about it, so it's like between just the online community and the network states, there is an intermediate step that I think is easier and is going to be. It could be a good way to start. Is like you create this community, for example, of digital nomads, and you have like 50,000 members. It's not hard to get that. It's not so hard, and you can go to governments and you make a survey in your group, and you say, hey, we're going to negotiate good conditions for you in certain countries. Which country do you want us to negotiate with? Then you go. And then you do okay, and then you ask how much do you make? Are you really willing to go? And you make them commit maybe by sending some bitcoins or something in an account, you know. And then you go to Portugal, to Indonesia, to these countries, and you say, hey, we have 5,000 people making on average $200,000 a year. who are willing to come to your country, and we can guarantee that if you give us the best conditions. And just so you know, we're also in talk with Portugal, with this country. So what conditions can you give us? It's like a union for digital nomads. And I don't think it's so hard to do. Actually, I think you can do it pretty easily. I will do a call to action in my book for people who want to do this. And it's an intermediate step, right? It's not a network state, but you could see it's a proto-network state, because you have some bargaining power with governments, and you can get good packages. Maybe probably some governments will agree. I did some very fast calculations, and I mean, if the government tax at 10%, I think it's going to bring more than 100 million a year of tax. It's like crazy. Yeah, because they are high earners, right? And indirect and indirect sales tax, and it can be something that is really changing for a small government. So I think it will be a good step, easy to do, nothing too crazy, like no need to negotiate sovereignty and these kind of things. But it's a good bootstrap, So I think it's doable. And I think it's very complementary with the idea of free cities. And I think the two ideas need to be tried and kind of compete and also intersect.
In that model, would the idea be to build anything, or would it just be to move to a place? Just move to a country? Or would it be to build a city for these people that wanted to move to that place?
Why not? Yeah. But maybe first we just want like 5,000 people to move to Bali or to another place that is already digital nomad friendly with better conditions, maybe some rights, and see how it goes. But then, yeah, why not? We can also say, hey, what about we buy this land and we build something and we do something in partnership with you? Still not a network set. Could be just like a village or a small city, but maybe with some specific local rules that will apply. I mean, still the national laws will apply, but there are some regulations and stuff that will be different there. It seems to be easier to pull it off.
I mean, and like you say, it only has to happen once or twice for it to probably spread like wildfire, as you said.
Yeah, we need. For all the things, we need a few good examples, and we always need to bring value to the host country. That's so important. And it's also very important because to say that also because most of the first critics people will say is like is going to be parasitic. It's like neo-colonialisms and these kind of things, but it's not gonna work if it's like neo-colonialisms. It needs really to bring value to the country. And in Próspera, I was impressed to see so many Hondurans working in Próspera. I was impressed, actually.
It's actually written into the constitution.
They are really doing a good job of interrogating Hondurans, but it's also because they know that they need to do it if they want to succeed.
But I mean, it's actually part of the legal framework. They need at least, I can't remember the exact figure, it's around 90% of people working there must by law be Hondurans.
Yeah, I think it's fair to have this kind of things in the agreement with governments because they want to have a guarantee that you're going to hire locals, which is fair. Yeah.
So what would it take for you to join one of those network state groups?
I mean, I think actually, I was thinking, what is the online community that is the closest thing to a network state we have now? And I think it's a digital nomad community. It's a proto network state because as a digital nomad, we have a few hubs in the world already. Dubai is one of them, Bali, Cancun. In Europe, you have Lisbon, Malta, Cyprus, and I mean, already the places. If you go there, it's going to be easy to meet digital nomads. So it's interesting. We don't have official territory yet, but we have places where you will be able to meet likewise people. And we are not a nation yet, but there is this sense of belonging to the same community with the same many common problems and inspiration and things, and it's a very close community. And it's easy for you to go to an event of digital nomads and make friends and bring value and get value when you're digital nomad. So I think it's really close to being a network state. We just need to have a few inspiring leaders, a bit more maybe a theoretical framework, but a few people like Balaji are doing it, and then to have some learn somewhere, probably.
Maybe you're the guy.
Maybe what?
Maybe you're that guy.
Maybe I'm one of them. It's like
who are the main influencers then in the digital nomad space? Let's say, people that everyone knows, especially like you say, I've got a YouTube channel with a lot of followers. And
stuff. I mean, there is still kind of a separation between languages, not between countries, but between languages. So people will not follow the same people in French, Spanish, or English, even though English is a lingua franca, and many people will follow some guys everywhere, no matter the language. But for example, Balaji is not well known in the digital nomad community. Only that's the thing. I think what the core ingredient that is lacking right now is in digital nomad community to be a real proto network set or quasi network set is a sense of political belonging and some political thought. Actually, the digital nomads don't see them themselves as a political entity right now, and they don't have political leaders. But Balaji, for example, could be one of the leaders, or at least one of the political philosophers. But most digital nomads, they don't have this consciousness yet. It's like very low. I hope with my book to bring a little bit of awareness to this community and others too. But it's like an ongoing work. I'm not the only one who will do that. But as soon as they will have a little bit of political consciousness, they will want leaders. And then people like Balaji will be able to.
What about in the French community, French-speaking
But so,
community?
To answer your question, like for example, someone like Tim Ferriss is a huge influential figure in the digital nomad community, but he's not a political leader. But he paved the way for our lifestyle by publishing the 4-Hour Workweek almost 20 years ago. And probably is maybe one of the most well-known figure in this world. But yeah, and in France, I would say I'm one of the most well-known. Other two, But yeah, and in other market, in other languages, I don't know.
And so, talk to me about that being a well-known influencer in a market like the market of living together. Let's say digital nomadism. What benefits does that afford you? What does it bring to you?
I would not say I'm a leader in the living together market because people don't have the awareness yet.
Okay. The digital nomad
I'm trying
space.
to bring it to them, but they still don't think about it. I mean, they think about what is the best place where I can have the best lifestyle and the lowest taxes possible, basically, and which is a good first step. But they don't think about a network state and free cities. Most of them don't know about it. But they are ready to learn about it.
How often do you speak about it on your channel?
All the time. But I mean, with my content, not all the time. With my friends, all the time. With my content is for entrepreneurs. So I do speak about it from time to time, but it's not the core content of what I'm doing. But people know I'm writing a book about it. I also think it's better to read the book because some concepts are so far away from where people are right now that they need to like a deep dive into it. When my book will be published, I will have I will build a whole ecosystem around it, like a YouTube channel, or maybe I will use the actual YouTube channel. I don't know. I feel, a huge part of my customers still live in their home country. They could leave if they wanted to, but they don't for many reasons, including some of what you shared. And my goal is to make them more aware of their options and make them more willing to try it,
Is your book going to be French speaking?
So I'm writing it in French. It will be published first in French, but I really hope that it's going to be translated in other languages.
Does it have a name yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the name is not definitive. You want the name in French?
Sure.
Okay. Tout le monde n'aura pas la chance de quitter son pays. So everyone. The thing is, it doesn't translate well in English.
No.
It's because my first book was Tout le monde n'a pas eu la chance de rater ses études, which means not everyone had the chance to fail at his studies, but in English doesn't sound so good, but in French it's amazing. So that's the thing we are kind of lost in translation. My book was translated in English as The Way of the Intelligent Rebel, and I don't know yet what will be the title in English.
The Way of the Intelligent Rebel.
Yeah, this is my first book, and but the one I'm writing right now, I'm publishing extra excerpt of it on an English speaking blog called Disruptive Horizons.
So tell me then, from your experience amongst the digital nomad community, what are the most receptive ideas from the Free Cities movement? What ideas are people most receptive to?
They are really intrigued by the idea of having a real social contract. They are really intrigued by being free to choose any currency. They are really intrigued of no red tape, and it's easy to create a business and to manage it, and by low taxes. Yeah.
Because, I mean, all but one of those are things that they can get right now here in Dubai, right?
Yes.
So really, the key is the contract.
You know, I think Dubai is going to be a tough competition, honestly, because they have network effect already. And it's really hard to beat the network effect. I think the free cities can attract, but I mean, first, Dubai is not for everyone. You need to make a good income to really live here nicely. People who are starting, they go mostly to Thailand or the Philippines or Bali because it's cheaper in East Asia, right? There are already places that are more tied to certain type of digital nomads. It's not the same type who goes to Bali, then go to Dubai, then go to Panama, for example.
Go on. Break it down for me. This is all new information. Are we saying you get more yoga instructors, yoga influencers in Bali? You get more entrepreneurs
big
here?
time. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the personalities then of, not the people personalities, but the personalities of the countries that attract what kind of influencers?
Yeah, I mean, it depends also of what kind of landscape and weather you want. Some people, they want to live in a luxury, like they love nature, they love trees, they love jungle. So in Dubai, it's going to be hard. I mean, there is some nature contrary to what most people think, but it's not the same type of nature you will get in Bali or Costa Rica for sure. So if you really love tropical beaches with a coconut tree, Dubai is not for you. And for many people, it's bad for this, right? Also, people who are conscious about the environment, most of them don't like Dubai. They want to go to Bali is good for them, for example. So, I mean, but already you see this competition between places to attract digital nomads. Also, some people don't want to be too far away from their homeland for many reasons. So in Europe, for example, people will go to Lisbon or Cyprus or Malta, and because it's just 2 hours flight from there.
Other than the environment then, what are the incentives to live in Bali? Is there a tax incentive?
I mean, so the thing, I mean, there are taxes, but in some countries, you have what you should pay theoretically and what everyone pay in practice. And Bali is one of these countries, you know. So in practice, you don't need to pay so much taxes. But if you want to follow everything by the book, it's a different story. But yeah, it's very, I mean, most people come from Western countries in Europe, and it's really, really high taxed. So it's really hard to find a country that is more taxed than your home country, right? And most people are okay to pay a bit of taxes if they like the country where they live in. Some people are really chasing the 0%. Some of them. But I will say it's a minority. Most people want a good quality price ratio. I'm looking at my friends here, and I mean, there are hundreds of people in my industry. It's crazy. It's a bigger hub than Paris. And I didn't notice anyone saying he would want to leave Dubai now that there is a 9% tax. Because everything is amazing, right? So, and 9% is not so high, and you still don't have a personal income tax, you still don't have corporate gain tax. So it's worth it.
When you say your industry, do you mean the industry of helping people relocate or advising?
No, it means the industry of people teaching how to grow your business, basically.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, not only that, but like people teaching how to, the global industry where I am is like how to make money. So that's what I'm referring to. Like people teach that how to do real estate, how to do it with other type of investment. I do it by teaching entrepreneurship. I mean, I'm teaching entrepreneurship mostly, more content marketing, and how to have a business in service of your life. But in the end, you need to make money. So that's what I'm teaching, like at the core. I prefer to say I'm a teacher of freedom, but my whole industry is make money.
And when you say teach it, do you mean one-on-one consultations?
Oh, absolutely not.
Are you making money from your channel or what?
You cannot have a business inside of your life if you exchange your time from your money.
So how does it work then?
Yeah, I mean, your time is what you have, your most precious asset. So if you're exchanging your time for your money, it means you value money way more than your time, which is a bad deal. So ideally, you want to make money when you sleep. So how do you do that? Well, what you teach or what you do is a skill, and this skill can be taught in a more automated way. So like instead of, for example, doing a live lesson to students, you do the live lesson with students, but you record it. And then magically you have a product. That's as simple as that. And if you don't teach, but you have a skill, well, teach your skill. And teach it in front of a camera, and then magically you have a product. So I'm selling online courses, and most of my colleagues too. And of course, we also have coaches to help the students and stuff. I mean, it depends what type of product you do. But the high-end flagship online courses we sell, there is like the whole ecosystem of the community, the coaches, the lessons. But you don't need yourself to exchange your time for your money, you know?
Unless you're updating the content, obviously.
Sorry?
Unless you're updating the content.
Of course, yeah. No, but even these, you can update the content by yourself, or you can just tell your team, hey, you need to update this lesson with these and these, you know.
Do you use your YouTube channel as a marketing tool or as to make money?
Oh, no, as a marketing tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my channel is not monetized.
Really?
Yeah. I don't.
Why?
That's one of the core things I'm teaching. Is I'm not teaching people to be influencers. I teach them to be infopreneurs. So the biggest difference is influencers entertain people, infopreneurs help people. So there are many differences between the two jobs occupation. To be an influencer and to make money, you need to have a huge traffic. And you need to do ads and product promotion, basically. But the problem with that is it doesn't work if you don't have huge traffic, because the value per visitor is very low. Because why? It's not qualified. Because everyone wants to laugh. Everyone wants to be distracted. Do you hate laughing? No, yeah, right. I mean, if I'm in a room of 1,000 people and I say, "Hey, who hates to laugh from time to time?" Nobody will raise his hand, right? So it's not qualified because everyone wants to laugh. But of course, even if you're very, very funny, not everyone will like your humor. But still, it's not qualified enough. But the infopreneur, because he wants to help, he doesn't need this huge audience. He can have a small audience, but he will make good money because people will want to pay for the course and maybe the service because they want to overcome a struggle in their domain of interest. So, for example, I have students in many different fields. Like I have students in photography, in dance, in like I have a student who is teaching how to entertain your kids by taking a walk in the forest, and she makes money with it. It's crazy. Yeah, and I have students teaching Japanese, how to learn Japanese, how to play violin, these kind of things, right? And so if you take the industry of saying like teaching violin. What is the biggest struggle that the people want to overcome? It's like, oh, I play very bad. My violin, when I play my violin, my family just close his ears because it's too bad. I want to play nice, at least one song, so I can make my family enjoy, you know. So she will create content and products to help with this goal, and people will want to pay for a solution that will help them overcome their biggest struggle, and the value per visitor is way higher than someone who just want to be entertained.
Interesting. So you'd say that in the digital nomad ecosystem, what percentage of people are sort of following that route, do you think? I think here you said quite a few, but in general?
Yeah, it's my field. So many people I know are doing these in different fields, right? You also have digital nomads. The other types I'm meeting are developers, because you can code everywhere, doesn't matter. And developers are so thought after that companies are willing to give them the best conditions. Maybe it will change with AI. Maybe they will become obsolete. We don't know yet, but we'll see. There are everyone who can work remotely. I remember I've been to an event in Lisbon in 2017 about remote working, and it was very interesting because it was completely different from the type of people going there was completely different from the people I usually meet. It was like secretary, like normal people, but working remotely, you know, and also enjoying this kind of freedom that we web entrepreneurs we have. And you have also another profile is people who do e-commerce. Mostly web entrepreneurs, but also web remote workers.
Interesting. I'm acutely aware that it's pitch black outside now. We've been sat here and talking for a long time, and I think everyone's probably ready to go. But thanks for letting us go off topic. I relish the chance to ask people about these kind of things. So thanks for talking, and thanks for inviting us here. Yeah, sorry to cut it off so abruptly, but I know we came here to do something else, and we've ended up talking about this stuff. But it's phenomenal. I'm really thankful for that. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.